Hey guys, Bolt here, and I am sorry again. So if you guys did not see my post over on Bolt or SP, my main two channels, today's been fungled. I have I've been working on the script for the Five Nights at Freddy's timeline for so long that time kind of slipped, and it got here way too quick. So we're doing this right now. I also forgot it for a few days. So it is a lot of my issue. So we're gonna do this real quick, and then I will post it to SP tomorrow. That way, it's at least on SP. And then do not forget, both SP and Bolt will have a 12 o'clock announcement video for the remainder of the year with November, December, and then some extra little announcements for the channels. Anyways, let's get into this. So, I think the reasoning for me making this video is because I've seen so many theorists lose their minds at this point. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or call them out, but the fact that their theories from only a few months ago are starting to peeve me off. Let me make sure this is titled properly. Cool. So, anyways, a theory I literally just saw last night to kind of like proofread some of my stuff. The person thought the puppet died during Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So we're going to completely ignore that they were there for the MCI and were the reasoning for the MCI happening. And then it also sounded like they wanted the MCI to happen at Five Nights at Freddy's 2 rather than back at Five Nights at Freddy's, the original Freddy's location, which would not have been shut down have it not been for the MCI. So people need to get their story straight, look at facts again, because we have like we're doing fandom stuff where it's just like, well, this is my head case and this is how it's gonna be. That's not theorizing. That's you making a fan fiction and making it your factual world for Five Nights at Freddy's, which is not something you should be putting out in the air. Which I'm fine with you doing it as a theory, but yet I don't know where people are going mentally here. It's getting ridiculous with what theories are out there. I think Pat said it best. If you have a way of how the story goes in your head, you're going to be stuck in that. No matter how whatever evidence comes up, you're going to try to stick to that story. So with this, I will say if it's a theory, but most of this stuff is like basically we know this stuff. And basically it's the stuff that makes the most sense in the game lore. I will mention this again. This is the games, not the books. The books and the movies are separate from this universe. The movies, I'm going to have to explain to you guys why it doesn't make sense to be a part of. So an issue with the movies is that the movies are going to confuse people of the game lore. The movies have Five Nights at Freddy's 2 being the original location, which means that the classics have nowhere to go before then. And they're saying that the franchising are classics. So basically, if the universe is the way it is, it should go Fred. In the movies, it's Fredbear's Five Nights at Freddy's 2 with the toys, and then the classics. Where in the game universe, the classics always exist after Fredbear's or during Fredbear's, which is the thing I'll mention. And then just the books, just you can't have because literally Edwin, Fiona dies in childbirth. Fiona in the games exists for a few years of David's life. These things are huge clashing things. You can't just keep them a part of the same lore. I think another issue with the movies that William Afton is still the CEO and owner. Like, I think he still has in the games holdings of Fazbear Entertainment, but I don't think he's got any association with it. I think it's a Papa John situation where he did something, so he can't be associated or be the face of it anymore, and they have to disassociate with him. But anyways, let's get into this because I do have work here in a very quick amount of time. So we will be using book evidence. I will say that because it kind of fills out the world. It gives us similar examples. That way we're not confused. So let me go ahead and raise this up a little bit so that you guys can hear me perfectly. So in Hurricane, Utah, based on the Silver Eyes trilogy novels, is the place for the mainstream buildings. So Hurricane, Utah is where we're stationed. Starting with the earliest of the timeline, which is the newest game, Secret of the Mimic. This starts actually, so before the game even happens, we start with some of the earliest point in the time we can kind of figure out is that in the possible 1950s, early 1960s, Murray Sr., who started Murray's Costume Manor, is existent. So 1950s, 1960s, Murray's is a company. His son Edwin has been working at the manor, and from what we hear from audio tapes, it sounds like he is an inventor / designist, but I think it's more like you will go with whatever your dad says rather than go make your inventions and kind of sell your points. Kind of like his father kind of pushing him down and rejecting a lot of his ideas. Edwin does meet his future wife Fiona at the job. Fiona is used to be a puppeteer before the manor. During their first conversation, Edwin has created an audio recording device that he nicknames Helpful, which is basically the start of what we come to know as Mr. and Mrs. Helpful. And these are also the base designs for Help-P, and they have very similar design schemes to the Fun Times. In the mid-1960s, Fiona is a design artist who makes the designs for Chica's Party World, which I believe is the start of the partnership between Murray's and early Fazbear Entertainment. But the issue I did mess up here is that I will eventually get to it, I think. Okay, so it's like right down here. I believe that Chica's Party World is Henry. This is Henry. So they become partners with, it doesn't have to be Fazbear Entertainment, but Chica's Party World I think is Henry's, and this is where Edwin would meet Henry, and they would become good friends. And then, because they're both like inventists / like mechanics, so I think they would really like go off one another in terms of energy. But when we finally eventually get to Fazbear Entertainment, Murray Sr. does kind of warn him, hey, these people might be like scheming something, or like they're shady. Try to be on your guard. There might be something happening. Based on the manor's net earnings graph, I was originally going to do like a slideshow with this, but I just didn't have time. We'll probably return to this idea if I kind of like polish up a little bit more. But using that graph, it seems like Murray Sr. passes away in 1968, leaving Edwin in charge. This gives him the ability to start selling his inventions. And then in December of 1970, so Edwin and Fiona probably married before Sr. died. But in 1970, in December, Edwin and Fiona do give birth okay, wait. Oh yeah, they do give birth to David. Um, and then also, it seems like there is a pretty big jump. Well, it's not like a huge skyrocket jump, but it's a like it goes from a red line to above pretty decently. And I think this is Edwin creating the Cleanovac, which is a big hit. And then in 1971, um, David's first birthday, um, Fiona makes the Roxy puppet. Um, a thing I did want to say, and this is what I was going to kind of go into, is that P.S. Fredbear's Family Diner has been open extremely early in the timeline. This is probably Murray's and Fazbear Entertainment, or at least the Family Diner, have been set up for so long that they're probably existing for a good while. In Security Breach, we see posters of Fredbears, which we do get to see in Secret of the Mimic. Um, and then also, there's a poster of like early. Matt Pat said it, where it's just like it's a early 1930s, 40s. It's like a very early poster, kind of like a Mickey Mouse cartoon era. Um, and I believe also that there's a record in Secret of the Mimic. So, Fredbear's Family Diner has been existent for a while. So Fredbear Entertainment might have been a generational business before William and Henry. So I believe it might have been either Afton Sr. giving off, well, like just Afton giving to William. So basically what I'm saying is Fredbear's is set up pretty early. They make their own costumes. That way, either Murray Sr. provides the costumes that become Fredbear and not Spring Bonnie, but just Bonnie. Or like they make their own, and then eventually they do work with Murray's, and Henry does make Chica, the Chica's Party World, and they do team up with Murray. And then in 1972, David's second birthday, Edwin starts getting absorbed into his work. He starts obsessing over trying to outbeat the Cleanovac. Because at this point, it's kind of like steady. But I think after this point, he just starts doing so, like, I think basically, after him obsessing and, like, getting absorbed into work, Fiona brings him back. And kind of like, okay, we need to stop. We need to kind of, like, work on this stuff first. And I think in 1973, it just skyrockets. So it looks like basically Edwin's on his stride, Fiona's keeping him in check, and this makes their business take off. But 1973 is also the turning point for their story, because in fall of that year, we find out that Fall Fest, that was created back in 1970, so probably around the time when Edwin would actually start kicking off his full-on inventions. They also have David, so they try to like probably make something for like him to grow up in. So having a little festival of such in it. And Fiona goes to kind of like watch over stuff, and she dies in the fire caused by faulty Murray's equipment. At this point, Edwin starts many projects that are not completely finished, so he probably sped run along a lot of the technology that would go to Fall Fest, which would kind of blow up in their faces and would burn down the Fall Fest, including Fiona. This left David's third birthday only a few months later, lonely, because Edwin would need to go to work. Like, he gave him a bunch of presents, said, I'm sorry, your mom's not here, but I need to go back to work. Especially now that she's not here, I need to like keep up on my game. Grief cannot streak me down, or we will have no money. And then in 1974, this is also kind of like the time when Edwin starts like trying to figure out other stuff. The decline is starting. Um, he does find a voice that turns out to be Fiona's. Um, and this is either a creation of his that has like learned how to use that, because he has the Michelin, like, right, and like that kind of technology he's been building. He's got a bunch of prototypes. One could have like started to learn Fiona's voice. Um, or the thing that I think is actually happening is that it's a supernatural um, occurrence, which um, we'll get back to in a second, but this is also the first recorded spiritual thing. The supernatural works differently in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. It's created mostly through strong emotions, especially agony, which is created by pain or terror. First is Remnant, which holds the universe's version of a spirit, which likes to attach itself to metal, but it doesn't have to be. We even know that it's attached itself to just people in general, in even plastic balls. It can be melted down into a silver liquid-like substance, but too much heat can negate the effects of Remnant. There's also a thing attached with Remnant which is known as agony, not just the emotion, but agony, which is a separate like source. So unlike Remnant, which becomes into a substance, agony is just basically an emotion given sentience, or like something that makes it have the effects it does for supernatural occurrences to happen. And Remnant can be harnessed, and what is it called? Also, the greater the agony, so the stronger the emotions, the more powerful a being can be, or whatever holds that agony can be extremely, like, it can affect something majorly. And then after learning the source, he does construct a body, which I don't think it has to be because of Fiona's voice. I think he makes the mimic, the endoskeleton for the mimic, just to kind of like have something to watch over David because he's too worried for work. But having Fiona's voice to attach to it makes it so much better of a caretaker. And he uses old projects to make up the endoskeleton, like an extending coat rack for changing sizes, the Stay Up Latte, which is an AI that learns from people. Also the Michelin, who can mimic voices. And this thing that has Fiona's voice, it can be a project or it could just be the possession, but this is known as M1, Mimic 1. This is made to be the caretaker for David. It is possible that the M1 was found. Okay, there we go. Also, it's F10 is what he calls this robotic-ish Fiona. And for his 4th birthday, he leaves him to play on a new playground being watched over by M1. And I believe we do see a drawing in like this little cubby in story time, where it looks like it was David's hideout, and it looks like on his 4th birthday, the mimic may have been using costumes to kind of make his birthday worth a while, because we do see the elephant, and I think it's Sharpay. So basically, the mimic would probably like try to entertain, or other people try to entertain David while Edwin was away. And then in 1975, Edwin plans a big party for David with his employees, but M1 leaves him unattended to try to make a cake. And the playground is close to the loading dock, which by returning, they find David dead. There's three theories going on right now. Where one, David chases his ball into an accident, to a car accident, and this is very the Tales books is what happens to him. The second one is M1 has killed David intentionally to make it to where David becomes a robotic personality that Edwin has to create. Evidence for this is that if you play the Moon.exe game, um, there's a baby owl that follows you for 50% of that, and then when you meet Sun, which is the M1 program, um, when you get like when you start going forward from a point, the owl goes missing. But if you go to the oven, something is going. The oven is being used, and if you ask the Sun what happened to the owl, it said it flew away. So I think maybe M1 may have had something to do with it, but the thing is, what happened to David is a mystery. The third one is that a lot of people are thinking also that maybe William may have kind of, like, he's seen what happened with Fiona, so to kind of make the downfall happen faster, he may have done something to David. That way it kind of like takes a huger hit to the Murray's company. After Fiona's death, there is nobody to balance out Edwin in the business. This also includes his relationships, including his employees. So it like everyone's clashing with him. His own ideas are being his downfall. In between 1976 and 1979 of August, I think it's either August or September is when the game takes place. Fazbear starts poaching the employees with higher pay and even bonuses for others to jump ship. So, hey, go get your friend and we'll get you a bonus. Or if they came with like ideas, like here's a blueprint for this character or this idea, and Fazbear would then be able to go and IP that. That way Murray's can't use it, but they can own it themselves. They would get more money or a higher position based on that. And there's two employees that are notable to me. The first one is Stan, who we basically on an email or like one of the mails he does leave is that he has another employee leave with him to make a shop. And we do see this in Finance 36, Stan's Budget Tech, which it looks like he started his own little setup, and he uses animatronics, which we do learn are the mediocre melodies, which straight up are just like rip-offs that are legally just slightly different so that they can't come after them for. The Jug Band frogs become Happy Frog, the Jug Band Hippo becomes Mr. Hippo, the Lasso Pig becomes Pig Patch, the circus-themed elephant we see is Orville, and then of course one of the biggest like partners is Fazbear Entertainment, and their main attraction is Fredbear, so they just make Ned Bear. And then the other employee is Ralph. He is a newer name in the franchise, but we've known him for a good while in Five Nights at Freddy's. And thanks to the week before, which is a Choose Your Own Adventure that came out for the 10th anniversary, this is known as the phone guy. The guy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1 with Scott's voice is known as Ralph. I believe he's one of the biggest reasons for Murray's downfall. A lot of people are saying this is Henry, but I think this is Ralph. By making a deal with William Afton, we see an email that is sent to someone that's providing the remaining staff contacts, so to poach the remaining employees. And also taking, if he does that, he can become a manager at the new franchises. Henry is known as a co-founder in a lot of the media. So by demoting him to just being a manager at a singular location, kind of makes no sense. Not to mention, he would have no stakes to do anything with the franchise by Final Fantasy 6. But if Ralph, who's giving up contacts, becomes the manager, that gives him a reason to be throughout the locations. And especially, he is the one at the main locations for the game, the ones where incidents happen. And of course, this new franchise is Freddy's. So basically, early in the 1970s, around Fiona's still alive time, they start the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza project. Um, Edwin keeps using research and development to make it. Freddy seems to have been worked for many years, possibly during the Edwin's first years as the owner. So it looks like as soon as Murray Sr. left, Fazbear Entertainment made the project with him, but basically little by little they made it worse on him. Until eventually Fiona died, David died, and now they can take full advantage of that program. This project is so good to Murray's that it could even give them like a whole repurpose. In Edwin's office, we see a new remodeled Murray's manor, with amazing things. They promised the employees like windows and other things. So it sounds like it's such a good thing for Murray's, but sadly, Fazbear Entertainment is shady as hell. We also learned that she's the designer for Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And based on a coming soon poster we've seen a lot of YouTubers get, it looks like it was launched, so like Freddy's became a thing in the late 70s. So before Fredbear's in Final Fantasy 4 happened, it looks like they've already had Freddy's open for at least a good few years. And they reinvented the Bear and Bonnie bunny with Freddy and Bonnie the blue bunny or purple. And then this is probably where both Henry and William were working together to make Fazbear Entertainment by having Chica included in that party. So basically it's just like William is making Fredbear's, Henry is making Chica's Party World. They come together to make the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria project, launching it with all three of these main characters. Another theory I have is that Fredbear's was William's, while Chica Party's World was Henry's. Freddy's was the combining the IPs of a new venture based on things we see in R&D. Fredbear was possible. So Fredbear's family diner was looking at a possible upgrade with newer spring locks for Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, and then some of Murray's originals like Bub and let's see here. Bub is someone we see in Final Fantasy's World. We also see Monty, who is Montgomery Gator in Security Breach. It sounds like that Fazbear changed their minds several times on multiple accounts, ending with a prototype of Final Fantasy 1. And then basically this is where like all these, instead of Bub and Monty joining, they had Foxy join. And he was kind of his own thing. He was first mate of a puppet show, of a TV invention that would make a whole show using a Captain Springlock suit. We also see that it was Murray who created the Indo-01 model instead of a thing you have to remember is that anything a customer of the manor sees during their tour of the rent and purchase areas, they can just either buy it outright or rent it. So like Bub, Monty, and Foxy are very usable characters for Fazbear Entertainment. Um, and then let's see here. This is also to advertise previous customers, such as Fredbear's, but instead of showing the character off, because they can't rent or buy those characters, they just show posters of their partners, like we see the Fredbear and Bonnie posters from Security Breach used to advertise past ventures. Everything is legal, with loopholes in logic. Um, and in the end, Fazbear drained Murray so much that it's required to have a buyout. Um, Fazbear gains the land, the IPs, the technology, and they keep Edwin on as a engineer. And then, however, Fazbear wanted more. They wanted the Mimic. So someone had leaked that he was working on the M2, which is because M1 wanted him to make something for David. After David's death, M1 would ask him to do so. He would fail after fail. This is the proto mimics we see at the end of the true ending, a lot of people are calling. He finally gets one similar to M1, but it is not the same. Unlike the lightning in the bottle M1 was, this one is a surface level of David. It is a shell of his former son. In his grief, he put M1 in a computer in R&D, which is F10's computer we see, to cut contact with her, because he doesn't want to do anything with this person that is copying his wife. Then with M2, after putting him in the M1 endoskeleton, he does lash out, hurting M2 and breaking the endo legs. The issue is that unlike M1, where it's like primarily Fiona, M2 is still using its program to learn. So even though M2 was trying to recreate David, it was still in the learning process and wasn't dead set on David, and he learned how to hurt. Let's see, he was only surface. He was only David on the surface. Edwin, in his anger, became deadly. And in revenge, he made an explosion go off in Edwin's office, leaving Edwin under the rubble to die. In the following weeks, Fazbear Entertainment sends employees to retrieve the blueprints for the Mimic, but most die and are put in costumes around the manor. Following dispatch contacts a nearby tech, Arnold, who is getting blackmailed by Fazbear to work unfair hours. He arrives to the manor, gets hunted down by M2. As we see the building, the building hasn't had a lot of activity for months or years. So it's like cobwebs and stuff. We do run into Big Top, which is the grand poppy of Music Man. We also see Edwin developed the games for attractions, including Fazzer Blast. Going down, Arnold does find Dolly, who looks very similar to Circus Baby and is voiced by the same voice actor. And we do learn Murray Edwin has been the creator of recycling of this universe. Let's see here. As he looks farther into the betrayal and the cutthroat business practices of Fazbear, he comes across Moon.exe, a program developed by M1 to show memories of the Murray family through items from the past. This, I believe, is a program M1 wanted to use for M2 to make him remember his David persona. After getting the blueprints and seeing some other designs that with Chica, we also see a shooting game with Roxy. So it looks like Roxy was going to be her own venture in a Western style themed. We do see Fazbear take this in Security Breach Ruin, and we see that instead of Roxy, they wanted Foxy to be like the sheriff, so a Woody character, in the Foxy Log Ride. Arnold finds himself in R&D. He meets uh, M1, who has him head to Murray's residence to confront Edwin and activate Mexes, which is a mechanical X-form experimental storage. This is to trap the mimic from harming others, which what we see in Ruin repurposes as the M1's computer to find the program, to hold the program. So M1's computer, F10, they put mexes in there to kind of set up the barrier for, or like the program for the mimic. Arnold tries to get away, but fails. With mexes active, this gives Fazbear the chance to take over the manor. The manor is burning down, so whatever remains, they're able to like scrap together. But with Afton being able to have claim to the land, the IPs, and anything in the tunnels, he's able to kind of make Fazbear Entertainment have a bigger backlog, and he also makes the Murray's residence his own, and then he uses the tunnels for possible experiments in the future. If Fiona's remnant doesn't make M1, at least David's remnant. So basically, if M1 isn't Fiona as a spirit, definitely David is a spirit with the white tiger that keeps appearing throughout the game. Afton would be curious about the Mimic program and Remnant, because if M1 is a Remnant being, he would have access to it. In Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the Murray in 1983, Murray's is a forgotten business. Fazbear Entertainment is extremely popular with many franchises, many places, locations. They even have a TV show called Fredbear and Friends that looks like it's also been created at the same year of 1983. And it looks like they took the characters from the whole idea from Murray's and made it into the Freddy's of Hurricane Utah. We learn that William has 3 kids: Michael, Elizabeth, and Crying Child, also known as Cece. There is theories that he goes by Dave and Evan. This is through the security logbook. It is not confirmed. So Cece is fine. David, I do believe, is the name, though. With the theory... oh, hold on. I have to say this. Dave Afton and David Murray are not the same person. I'm going to have to say this again. Stop looking into it that hard. There are people that have the same name all the time in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. Look at Jeremy alone. He's the spirit that controls Bonnie. He's the employee in 1987, and he's also a victim of Glitch Trap who cuts his face off. So why not? Just why not have all 3 of these characters? One is literally dead as a kid. One is possibly the bite victim, and one slices his face off. Being someone named Jeremy, stay away from Hurricane Utah. Or like Freddy's in general. So just don't forget that happens a lot. Well, Crying Child has an upcoming birthday at Fredbear's. But he is scared of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie mostly because he possibly... One second. Alright, I'm going to make this quick. I'll probably call this part 1. Because I'm running out of time. I'll probably finish... Oh boy. I think I'll try to get to the missing child's incident. Let's see here. he's scared of the animatronics because he probably witnessed the death or the aftermath of spring lock failures, which I believe are those incidents create agony beings that go on to be called Shadow Freddy, Shadow Bonnie, or RXQ or RWQ. I don't remember what it is. Um, Crying Child gets bullied by his fear, um, for his fear by other kids. This is especially his siblings and Michael's friends. And his friends and Mike use masks to kind of like torture him with them. At his party, Mike and his friends put him in the mouth of Fredbear with Cece's tears and movement. That loosens the spring locks to kind of clamp down on him, which he would be alive for some time, but eventually he would pass away. But he in his like passing moments, he does hear a broken apology from Michael, and he does hear a promise from his father to put him back together. And this incident, I think, is known as the Big Bite. In William's grief, he puts Mike in a nightmare chamber within the tunnels of the Murray's tunnels to travel. He simulates the crying child's nightmares of the animatronics, because we learn that Cece confines in a Fredbear plushie that we find out William has been using to talk to his son or communicate or at least hear from him through this plushie. And in the Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Mike is tortured by gas chambers that alter his vision and have an altered room setting of the crying child. And he sees the nightmare animatronics, which are probably just like blank slates that are like looking like nightmare creatures. And then as that's happening, we do find, it's not for sure, but it's something that I think a lot of people think, that William goes to a bar named Junior's. He gets too drunk, and with his high emotions, they ask him to leave. He runs off to Fredbear's. He finds a Charlie and Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, locked outside by other kids. We see this in the Give Cake minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and the Security Puppet minigame. He ends up killing her and racing back home, which we see in Midnight Motorist. That is also titled in the program, in like the stuff of the game, that is called Later That Night. He goes back to torture Mike more, or like give him a piece of his mind because of his state. Even his wife, Mrs. Afton, tells him to leave him alone. He finds out that Mike has broken the window and ran off. We do see a set of animatronic prints in the outskirts of the property. This is probably Cece haunting Mike based on Golden Freddy from the movie. So Golden Freddy, unlike the others, can, based on the week before, leave. But Golden Freddy is more supernatural and has made it in the movie to even another property. Where in the week before, the main 4 animatronics need power to get that far. So they want to overcharge themselves, basically. But Golden Freddy is the only one that seems to have that ability. And if Crying Child is haunting Mike, that would make sense. However, Charlie isn't truly dead because the puppet, a new animatronic programmed to protect kids, especially Charlie, was blocked in by the bullies that forced Charlie outside. The kid, let's see here. After Mr. Afton did the deed, the puppet is able to get out, and in its last act, because it's raining, it's malfunctioning and getting ruined. It curls up next to Charlie, which allows her remnant to take over the puppet. A thing that we do learn through Secret of the Mimic is that it's very possible the puppet is actually a Fiona design, because she is a puppeteer, so it's very possible that it's based on something from her origins. The puppet, let's see. Oh, in 1985, last thing before I gotta go, the Missing Children's Incident, also known as the MCI, takes place at Freddy's. In 1985, Ralph is the manager, because it would seem like he's always around the incidents. And it would make sense that the manager would call his employees to explain their whole purpose of the job. So that's why he's the way he is. This is around the time Five Nights at Freddy's 3's phone calls happen. The spring locks are retired to the safe rooms, them being off camera and out of customer sight. I believe this is a move to rebrand. So after 1983, they want to get rid of Fredbear's up at the mind of the customers. So they dismantle Fredbear's Family Diner. They stick the spring lock, the customers, the Fredbear and Spring Bonnie away, and then they rebrand as just Freddy's in 1983. Because on a token we see that it says since 1983. So I think after the big bite, they're like, okay, we can't have anything to do with Fredbear's. Freddy's is the only thing we are known for. Let's see here. This is acting as a replacement of Fredbear's rather than an attachment to it. I think that Henry may have had his suspicions of Afton after the death of Charlie. This putting them at odds, and this making William act out again, and this time going to go and kill the 5 kids. And he takes his vengeance by luring the 5 kids. We see this in Foxy Go 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 from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We see this in the movie intro. We also see this in it's a similar exchange with the Chica School segments from Ultimate Custom Night. That Spring Bonnie is used again to lure them into the safe room by like promising things like, oh, I got something for you, or hey, I can help you here, or hey, there's cool stuff over here. He stuffs. I think he kills them, and then he later would put them in the animatronics. This would be Freddy as Gabriel, Bonnie as Jeremy, Chica as Susie, Freddy as Fritz, and Fredbear / Golden Freddy is Cassidy / Crying Child. But Cassidy is the main one taking over, because he would act friendly as the character to promise things, and eventually I think Susie's the most well known from his stuff, where it'd be like, oh, your dog that got ran over or hit, I have him, he's over here, he's still alive, come see your dog, Susie. Kills her. A thing that we do see in the Chica thing is that as the murders happen, kind of becomes more unhinged, and by the end it's just like, I'm just gonna kill him. I'm just gonna rip them apart, which I believe is what happened to Cassidy, where at the 5th victim, he's just so ruthless that he just sticks her inside Fredbear and lets the spring locks go off, which would create so much agony, which would explain why Golden Freddy is such a strong agony being. And then with CC on top of that, making them such a powerful person. Charlie is the puppet in Give Life from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the minigame. She helps them understand the situation, or is the reason that they get stuffed in the first place. I have been putting this in my head that possibly William just brought them to the safe room and then boarded it up That way, there's no reason for the kids to be found. But I also, and then the puppet would put them in the suits. That way, they would come back. But no matter what, the puppet is there for the MCI and is able to convert them into the animatronics, or at least show the way to do so. Another thing that you have to kind of remember, I don't think I ever put this in this script, but unlike the animatronics, Fredbear is out of commission and the puppet is out of commission, and the animatronics have a restricted moveset / vocals. So even though the spirits can be strong, they have to overcome or be set at whatever restrictions that the animatronic is. So like in the week before, when Ralph is put in to the to die by getting stuffed, he smells something and he doesn't know what it is, and then he realizes that the smell is him, and instead of saying the full phrase, we get the classic "It's me," which I think is all the animatronics recognizing that they're the ones in the suit. Let's see here. Based on newspaper clippings from Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and the Silver Eyes, they point to Afton as the person who did it. But the issue is, in the Silver Eyes, they do explain that, yes, he got arrested, but him being in the Spring Bonnie outfit is the only time he's on camera. And then him in the safe room, which is off the thing, there's nothing to really point him to the crime, so they have to let him go. And then Freddy's is left to rot, but Afton, after seeing the puppet is alive, starts to kind of like comprehend or experiment a lot more with Remnant, which starting on part 2, which I'll be working on, I'll probably release it on Sunday on SP to make up for stuff. I'll start with Circus Babies because I think Circus Babies happens right after the MCI. So anyways, I'll see you guys later tonight for the Jeff the Killer stream. I did not mention this. Nick is working pretty late at 4 in the morning. I am not playing SCP that late. I'm not doing that. I'm going to jump on at 12 probably, play the Jeff the Killer game, and then we'll call it. It's $5, so I'm not happy that I've spent money for another game, but that's what we'll do for tonight. That way, Jeff the Killer gets some time on my channels. So, alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the usual stream. We'll probably either play a multiplayer or some Hollow Knight based on what I'm feeling. And then we also have that announcement at 12. Do not forget. And then, of course, Bolt will have, SP will have this release, and then Bolt will have a normal release. I am sorry again that this came out over on here and that we don't have enough time, but this script is pretty long. The fact that it took me an hour just to get to Circus Babies. We haven't even hit the main, we've hit Five Nights at Freddy's 4, we've hit the MCI, and we've hit Secret of the Mimic, but we haven't hit the trilogy yet, which very quickly we'll be getting into after Circus Babies, because Circus Babies is like a paragraph. So, anyways, I gotta get going. I'm probably gonna be late. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.